Hi everyone, this is Anne, and today I'm bringing you three very scary abduction stories that are not only scary but also there is some evidence in these stories that they could be true and that is just really weird. So let's begin with the first one. The first one is called the Allagash Abduction. So in 1976, there were four friends and they decided to go camping together in rural Maine. So the second night, they noticed a bright light in the nighttime, and that's basically all they noticed. But then the third night, they decided to go night fishing. So they had a canoe and they all went on a lake to go night fishing. It was of course dark, it was in the night, and again they saw that bright light. And one of the guys had a flashlight, so he kind of flashed the SOS symbol in Morse, I guess, at the light. And the light started to approach them. It completely engulfed them. And then they woke up in their tent. They had no recollection of what happened. So the scary part is kind of what happens next. So one of the friends was called Jack, and he was the first one to start getting nightmares. So what he remembers were beings that had a long neck and a larger head, and that they were examining his arm while his three friends were sitting on a bench on the side, unable to intervene. So he said that these beings, these aliens, had like four very long insect-like fingers, and their eyes were kind of metallic-y big without eyelids. So then all of the others also started to get nightmares with similar scenario occurring in their nightmares. So then one of them was called Jim, and he actually decided out of curiosity to attend a UFO conference because you know what he had experienced, and if I was him, I also would investigate this and find out as much as I can. So he went to that UFO conference. Raymond Fowler was actually the one who hosted this, and afterwards Tim met up with Raymond. So he told the entire story, and Raymond was very intrigued by his story because there was not one person who had experienced it, but four. So what he suggested is that the guys all underwent regression therapy. If you don't know what regression therapy is, it's kind of like they bring you under sort of a hypnosis state where you go back and relive events in the past that you might have suppressed, and then suddenly in that hypnotic stage you can access certain parts of the brain where you start to relive it. So what these sessions actually revealed is that all four men had recollection of being abducted and undergoing like very embarrassing physical examination. So they all remembered having been physically examined by these aliens, taken fluid from their body and skin. So all of these guys, these four men, they were artists. So they had them sketch out aliens, the ship and the materials that they used to examine them. And those drawings were very similar. Like they had all been drawing the same thing. So he kind of said that it was similar to, let's say, a vet office where there's like a cold silver table to examine the animals. But when they try to recollect how the aliens looked like, it like as if they couldn't do it, and it's like a fuzzy image, you know, that you have it in your head, but you can't really focus in on any of the details. So all of these men were tested and they were found physically, mentally sane, and they also passed all the lie detector tests, which is kind of freaky. Okay, so the next story is of Jesse Long, and this is actually my favorite story out of all three. So he has had many videos telling about his abductions, and actually he was abducted several times during his life, starting from the age of 5. So in one of the videos he tells that he was very young, he was a child, and he was with his brother out in the woods somewhere, and that he saw a craft and he got completely paralyzed, and he was taken aboard the craft, put onto this very cold examining table, also the same like cold table, while his brother who was with him was taken to another room. So he all remembered this same way under regression hypnotic therapy. So he says that he had an implant in his left shin because the aliens, they were prodding and poking and stuff on his lower leg, and there was always some kind of scar that hurt actually, and he couldn't put his sock over it, the sock band, because it was too tight and it hurt, and it was there for like 34 years or something, which he believed was an implant by the aliens. And then eventually, this is the scary part, he had it surgically removed. And when they first saw this object, it looked like a glass shard. And people were like dismissive, like he put it in himself, things like that. Of course, it's gonna hurt if that's in your leg, stuff like that. But then scientists actually investigated this strange object in his leg. And what they found is that it was a composition of material that they couldn't explain. So there's footage online of this procedure, you can look it up. So he had more abductions and they grew kind of more and more horrific. So most of them were very similar, was going through a long hallway, put on this gold metal table. Then they started to experiment on him, and in one of these sessions they were extracting things from him. I could not really understand what it was, but he said something that they did something to have him mate with another female alien. They extracted things so they would have a baby together, so to crossbreed human and alien. So during another abduction later on, he was actually taken aboard a craft while in his car, and he was presented with a baby, and they said, "This baby is yours." And along the wall were, I think, 6 or 9 other children, which they have made by crossbreeding, which then slowly went to him, touched his hand and walked off. And he got this sense that they wanted to tell him that they were okay and that they were thankful. And there have been thousands of people with similar experiences, and what they think this is that humans and aliens are being crossbred, like aliens are creating hybrids and then placing them on Earth, and then this is some kind of part of a colonization attempt where eventually the DNA of the aliens will overtake that of the humans, which is scary to think about. And there are many more of these like crossbreeding stories. You can look them up online. It's very fascinating to read about, especially when there are videos of the people telling it themselves. The last story is of Sergeant Al Moody. So he was looking at a meteor shower in New Mexico. It was around 1:15 a.m. He said he saw kind of a metallical object that was lowering to the ground. So it began wobbling very unnaturally before making its way to him. He kind of got spooked by this, like who wouldn't, and he went into his car and tried to start it, but it didn't start. So the ship that came so close that there was like a sort of window in it, and he could see tall figures inside the ship. Suddenly this trance he was in, this alien trance, it ended, and he was back into his car, started the engine, it worked perfectly, and he went home. So when he came home, it wasn't that far and it was already 3 a.m. So he felt like he missed like 1.5 hours, and he couldn't recollect what happened in those 1.5 hours. So the following day, what he experienced is a pain in his lower back. So then within a few days, he started to get a rash all over his lower body. So a physician actually recommended him to try self-hypnosis to kind of recollect what had happened. And the self-hypnosis revealed some horrifying things. So when he was in this numb state in his car, the vehicle approached, emitting this loud sound. 2 beings, I think they were about 6 foot tall, they started approaching him, and they were completely dressed in black. So they approached him, he was rendered unconscious, and he woke up in their ship on an examination table. So his limbs, they felt very, very heavy, he couldn't move them. And then he saw next to him what he thought was the leader, because he was shorter, the others were 6 foot, the leader was 5 foot, and he had these metallic stripes or gray stripes, I don't really remember, on his black suit. Oh no, his entire suit was like a silvery gray or something. So like the others, this leader being, he had roundish eyes, a protruding bra, He was hairless, his scalp was hairless, and he had small nose, small ears, and very thin lips. And their skin was very whitish gray. So what his leader did is actually ask him telepathically, he sounded inside of his mind, asking him if he would behave peacefully. And he agreed upon that. Like, what else can you do? Like, no bitch, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Of course he's going to agree that it's gonna be peaceful. So when he agreed to that, the leader took this kind of rod-like device and put it to his back somewhere, and then the paralyzation stopped. And this reminds me of the story before this with the two boys that got abducted, and he also had this like rod with a light that made him paralyzed. So this kind of rod device seems to be coming back, which is very interesting. So when he was going around the ship, he was being shown everything, the drive of the ship. He was talking about the rods and stuff. You can read more about this online. And he noticed this very sweet and stifling odor. And what he was told is that the mothership was actually miles above Earth, and that it would take 20 years before they would ever encounter a human again. Like, they wouldn't abduct a human again for like 20 years after him. So what his leader did is he placed his hands on the side of Moody's head, rendering him unconscious. And that was it. So of course experts analyzed his claims, and they found that he was actually telling the truth. So there were some inconsistencies, I written them down. Like the investigator Jim Lawrenson, however, questions a couple of contradictions in Moody's account of the incident. So first he told the mothership was 400 miles above Earth, later he said 6,000 miles. Then on another account he said the beings were frail looking, but on another account he said they were 6 foot tall. But for the last part, you can be 6 foot tall and be frail looking. Like, I am naturally a thin person, I'm almost 6 foot tall as well, and people can say that I look frail, yes, yet I'm tall. So it's very possible to be 6 foot tall and frail looking. So these were my scary alien abductions stories for today. I will be back for Scary Saturdays next time, so stay tuned. Bye.